Collaborative methods, developing a digital innovation with older people managing multimorbidity, presented by Suzanne Smith. We're living longer than ever before, but with increased age comes an increased risk of multimorbidity, which is living with 2 or more chronic health conditions. Those who have multimorbidity are more likely to die early, have more and longer hospital stays, and have a reduced quality of life. Living with multimorbidity is complex and can be significantly burdensome. Self-management often requires monitoring of symptoms, medications, contraindications, restrictions, and multiple appointments with multiple healthcare professionals. And frankly, it's often simply exhausting. Digital technologies are seen as offering a potential support to ease the burden of self-management for people with multimorbidity, as well as facilitating better integrated care and improving communication between the person with multimorbidity and members of their care network. The COVID-19 context, of course, has created an even greater clamour for effective digital solutions to address the needs of all stakeholders in care networks. Demands on global health systems and changes in social and family support structures mean that we've seen a shift in emphasis to one of personal responsibility for self-management of our own health and well-being. The aim of PROACT was to develop a digital solution so that older people could self-manage their multimorbidity with or without support from their care network members. While the person with multimorbidity is considered to be the central end user, the perspectives and input of all potential care network members was important to develop a solution that would work in the real world. So in phase 1, we spoke to a wide range of people involved in multimorbidity management and care. Hearing the voices and real-world experiences of all involved was critical for us to understand what multimorbidity self-management requires and involves, as well as where the difficulties lie for and between each group of stakeholders. A range of methods were employed, such as interviews, focus groups, and questionnaires, to maximise the breadth and depth of knowledge that we could access. A thematic approach was then taken to analyse findings, which were in turn fed back to some participants to verify our understanding of their experiences. In phases 2 and 3, we took the findings from phase 1 and translated these into user requirements in order to develop the PROACT app. Again, engaging the end users was a critical element. We created an expert panel made up of different stakeholders and conducted co-design workshops and usability testing sessions prior to deploying the final app in a full proof of concept trial. To maximise the real-world application perspective for the research team, we also conducted an ongoing friendly trial of the devices and the app. So the researchers used the devices and the app through from the design stage right through until the end of the trial. What this meant was that we knew when an update might be causing a problem for a participant or a change in what the participants were seeing on their screen, because we were also experiencing it because we were using the devices. Speaking of devices, what makes up the PROACT kit? Well, each older person with multimorbidity received a digital scales, a watch which measured their sleep and their step count, a blood pressure monitor, and either a pulse oximeter or a blood glucose monitor, depending on which conditions they had. Everyone also received an iPad. And all of these were deployed in person with training directly by the researchers as often as was necessary. And they were to be used basically by the participant in whatever manner they saw fit. So once we had people use the devices for a month to get really familiar with them, then we said to participants to just use them as they wanted to use them, as fit into their lives and into their way of managing their health. The readings from the devices were then collected, aggregated and displayed on the PROACT app. Participants also had an opportunity within the app to answer health questions, set goals and reflect on their readings. Members of their care network then had their own version of the PROACT app, which they used to view data or readings belonging to the person with multimorbidity to which they had been given access. So the older person with multimorbidity was in control of who had access to their data at all times, and they could give or refuse or withdraw access to different aspects of their data. Our proof of concept trials took place in Ireland and Belgium over 12 to 15 months with 120 older people with multimorbidity and 73 associated stakeholders from their care networks. We used a mixed methods approach, which included validated measures and scales and interviews, which took place across 4 time points over the study. There was also a nurse triage and monitoring service, which made monthly check-in calls to participants and also responded to alerts through the ProAct app where device readings might have shown up as being outside the expected parameters for an individual participant. The nurse triage would then phone the participant to check in and see if they needed assistance and provide them with guidance. Finally, we maintained a researcher-led help desk for technical and general support throughout the trial. So, what did we get from having so many different stakeholders involved throughout this entire process? And did it make any difference to our end users in terms of their real-world, real-life experiences? Our findings so far would say absolutely. All participants reported that ProAct contributed to better and more timely and more integrated care. From listening to all the stakeholders, a key feature of ProAct is the individualised nature of the data, which then permits person-centred responses, resulting in reduced escalation of symptoms, as well as more timely clinical interventions and lifestyle responses. It's well accepted that healthcare is often experienced in silos, and a greater level of cooperation and communication is a constant aim of health service quality assurance measures and projects. Our Living Lab-based study found that involving all the stakeholders throughout all of the stages, from design and development through to deployment of ProAct, resulted in more collaborative relationships between people with multimorbidity and their care providers, increased empowerment and responsibility, and improved multimorbidity self-management among older people. I'd call that another win for harnessing collaborative methods to find solutions for real-world challenges. We're still analysing and publishing results from the proof of concept trial while applying ProAct in some new contexts, including COVID-19 management. We're always looking for partners and collaborators on the various different projects that we engage in at Netwell Casala. And if you're interested in working with us, we would certainly love to hear from you. I'd like to thank you for attending this presentation. I hope that you enjoy the rest of the conference. Go raibh maith agat agus fan slán.